have informed me that they understand what's going on, and it's not anything that relates to humanitarian training whatsoever. This is a psychological, as we in the research community say, this is a psyops. They're preparing people for what is coming, not what is being presented today.
So you're saying they're preparing people to accept it with incrementalism?
That is correct. Like the old frog example. You know, you put the frog in the water and you just gradually continue to raise the heat on the water until the frog is cooked. And that's the way it works. The problem is that the local people in general, just will not take their heads out of the sand. I'm going to tell everyone I can, listen, we have a serious problem.
And it's called a police state.
It's called a police state.
Let's go ahead and get to this. I mean, you want to see, you know, what goes with FEMA camps like a horse and carriage. Troops, militarized police, training with the Army to take over your cities and towns. Let's go ahead and play this YouTube clip. Martial law is coming from News 7 at 11.
The scenario was a fake, but the pepper spray and billy clubs used to break up this riot were definitely real. Good evening, I'm Miranda Stevens. Whether it's terrorism, riots, or any major disaster, local agencies will be the first to respond. That's why Roanoke City wants its disaster training to be as real as possible. Jeremy Butterfield has more.
It's supposed to look like a riot, and the scene at William Fleming High School had all the elements.
I'm one of the rioters that the guard and the police force had to take down and arrest, and did very successfully.
And then, see, you talk about this, and mainstream writes articles about me like I'm crazy, making up troops and troop deployments when it's the Army Times, the Army War College, hundreds of newspapers have announced it, and then I say, hey, that's tyranny, and they go, shut up, Jones doesn't exist. INFOWARS story on illegal Tennessee checkpoint prompts action by governor. Friday, listeners pointed out local news saying the Army was going to be out, regular Army running checkpoints, searching citizens with police. The governor got called, our listeners called.
The Whiteville Police Department had plans to conduct a seatbelt checkpoint on Saturday, April 4th at Highway 64 within the city limits of Whiteville. The checkpoint was planned to be in conjunction with Homeland Security and the 251st Military Police in Bolivar. After learning about this, I contacted Representative Johnny Shaw, who represents that area, ask you about this. Representative Shaw, you looked into this, and can you tell me what you've learned and where this stands now?
I can. Actually, this has been canceled. Some calls were made to the governor's office about this on earlier today, this Friday, and of course the governor just simply said, I don't need another headache. It was a bad idea in the first place. I mean, during this climate, in this day and time which we live, can you imagine the Army stopping you for a seatbelt check? You know.
We'll follow up with you on that, sir, and find out what steps are taken to protect, to see that something like this the public is notified in the future.
Definitely we will, because the public should have been notified if it was going to happen. And I'm going to make sure that I call all of the local authorities and ask them not to do this anymore. But if they should even attempt to make sure that they contact people like myself and make sure that people are notified as to what is going to happen.
Representative John Shaw just joins us for a few minutes, representative from Tennessee, District 80. Sir, thank you for coming on with us.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, Alex.
You bet. Now, we played the clip earlier of you on a local news station talking about Army checkpoints. The governor found out, thanks to you and others, and canceled it. Can you just in a nutshell tell us exactly, specifically what was going on?
Yes, I can. First of all, I have got to check. Now, I don't have concrete facts, but I don't think the military has, first of all, any jurisdiction to be checking seatbelts. When you look at the fact of a military unit being out, your daughter, my wife, or someone driving through a roadblock with all of these local officials, the Army and everybody out there, I think it's just going to scare people to death. I think our local and state officials have the staff when needed to check seatbelts, to do a seatbelt check without the Army getting involved. And I just don't think it's a good idea.
Welcome back to InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Aaron did the news part and had a couple interviews there and did a great job. And now we've got a special guest in here, Mike Adams, the health ranger, who just did the radio show this morning. And we learned a lot of new things. We learned from Mark Potok from the Southern Poverty Law Center that there is no hate speech. Just never existed, even though that's what they use to go after people all the time. And also he covered a story that I want to get into real quick. And it's about this man, Andrew Werdis, who was in Roswell, Georgia, and the man ended up committing suicide over the fact that his house was going to be foreclosed on. The city was coming after him for all these ridiculous code violations. They wouldn't give him any assistance, not doing what a city servant is supposed to do, but acting like a bureaucratic official. So with that, we're going to turn to Mike Adams, the health ranger. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Rob. Good to join you, man.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
A lot going on. So let's get right into the city of Roswell incident. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, first of all, Andrew Werdis is dead. He set his house on fire with himself inside the house. He was driven to that by a total outrageous abuse of power of the local bureaucrats there in Roswell, Georgia, who violated all kinds of laws and his civil rights in many different ways to intimidate him and try to take his property. They even contacted the holder of his mortgage illegally and tried to get them to sell his mortgage, which they did. They sold it out from under him to a mysterious owner that we have not been able to identify who now owns his mortgage.
Definitely not related to anyone in the city, I'm sure.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Only
In Austin does that happen.
Right, right. And we actually have a timeline of these events. Let's roll that timeline real quick, and you could just kind of go over it. And I mean, it's really, it's a sad situation. Here's a guy raising chickens.
A backyard chicken farmer, a car mechanic. This began several years ago. This has been going on, from December 2008. You can see there's our Friday Fright Night city code enforcer there on the
Vicky the Hut Barclay.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway, this goes on. There were some people in the city who tried to help him out. Others
the
said
mayor
no.
seemed to want to help him out.
The mayor tried to help him. They changed the rules on him to try to criminalize his backyard chickens after the fact without allowing him to be grandfathered in. They caused his property to be flooded because they refused to maintain a culvert that then flooded his property. Then they condemned his property, and they had it declared a nuisance property because he had what they called dead organic matter on the property. Well, that's just compost.
Yeah.
That's like, I compost on my property, I take chicken scraps, I put them out there, kitchen scraps, excuse me,
right.
Because I have chickens too. I take chicken scraps, that would be bad. Yeah. I take kitchen scraps and put them outside to make the compost, and I also take care of chickens. I have goats. Do goats poop on the property? Yes, of course they do, but in Roswell, Georgia, they call that a nuisance, and they use that as a reason to put him in jail for code violations.
And then from there, they foreclosed on his house. They took it over. And then I guess in the Inn incident, which happened just late last month, they came to evict him, and he blew the house up.
Well, there were some other things that happened, too. When they threw him in jail for 99 days for the code violations that they claimed, they then announced in the local paper that we threw this guy in jail. Well, everybody in town knew that Andrew owned firearms and mechanics tools and other valuable items, so his house was then looted. And the city said, we'll send some police officers over there to take a look, but they didn't really protect him. His house was looted. By the time he got out of jail, he came back and he found that his guns were stolen, his auto tools were stolen, some of his farm tools were stolen, his chickens had been poisoned, his house had been vandalized or looted. This was part of what led to his taking his own life.
Demonization effort is what it sounds like. This guy.
The city, I believe, engaged in a criminal conspiracy to destroy this man's life, and they succeeded.
They did. And what are they going to do with that property? They're probably going to sell it to one of their developer friends, or that's what they do in Austin. They get this stuff, they kick people out of it, say it's no humans on it. Oh, but now we're going to put a high-rise on it, or an apartment complex. It's magic.
Well, that property appears on the city's map of what they want as a future green zone. Now, by the time people see this and go to the website, the city may cleverly change that map to try to say, no, it wasn't. But we've done the research, and it is in the green zone map.
Well, let's go to a couple of these, well, at least one of the code enforcement officials, as she likes to call herself, or she's the supervisor, Vicky Barclay. Let's get the overhead shot of this. We also have a graphic. But what I find funny is on their website, it says, the Code Enforcement Office works each and every day to ensure that Roswell remains safe and a desirable place to live and do business for all our residents and visitors. blah, blah, blah. They do this through a fair and unbiased enforcement program, which corrects violations of Roswell City Code or writes new ones if we don't have a code that actually fits what we don't like that you're doing.
It seems clear that this woman, Vicky Barkley, is in the center of what I'm calling a conspiracy to intimidate, oppress, and destroy this man's life. They would selectively enforce code violations against him, but not others who exhibited the same behavior on their property. When a flood occurred, because the city failed to maintain their culverts, the flood eroded part of his property, so he brought in a bobcat to help repair and restore the soil.
Who gave him the bobcat?
I think it was the mayor.
It was the mayor.
Yeah, loaned him the bobcat.
You have the mayor who's on this guy's side, who's trying to help him out. Which it's usually like that in these small town situations. Right. You have the mayor who's a normal, decent guy, and then this council of vultures and other little petty bureaucrats.
Creatures.
Here's another skexy, KJ Love, who was she was a city administrator who was helped kind of change the law so he couldn't have the chickens anymore, so they could rewrite that law.
That's right. It appears that the law was specifically rewritten to target this one individual and put him in a state of violation that they could then use to escalate the situation, which ultimately led to his death.
This is the poison fruits right here of Agenda 21. These people think they now have free reign to go in and just intimidate people and write new laws and kick people out when they find a piece of land that they want, and it's despicable. Right.
It's absolutely despicable, and it saddens me in particular, Rob, because I believe that had we known about this man and what was happening, either at INFOWARS or where I'm the editor of National News, we could have publicized this and prevented this man from dying.
Yeah.
INFOWARS has saved many lives by shedding light on bureaucrats and tyrants who are threatening innocent people. And I believe that this man's life being lost could have been prevented had we known in time and had we been able to take action in time and exposed the criminal conspiracy that I believe was taking place by these city administrators.
Well, all we can do now is may his death not be in vain. Exactly. Andrew Wordis. We can, get the word out, tell other people. Maybe somebody who's going through the same thing now is going to see this and go, man, I need to reach out. I need to do something, I'm going to put myself out on YouTube and expose these people, because when you shine light on these cockroaches, they'll run for cover because they're in the wrong and they know they're in the wrong. That's why they're doing it with all this color of law stuff.
They are counting on these individuals to not have the resources to be able to bring in national attention.
Right. And they love the single old people. That's their favorite victim to go after. That's their prey. They see that and they go, oh, we can get that. That's going to be easy. He won't put up a fight, or she won't put up a fight, and they love to go after veterans because they've done their duty and served their country.
Especially veterans.
And I mean, it's really sick. There's an article, it's on INFOWARS, but it's also at Natural News. City of Roswell, Georgia bullies Andrew Wordis to death over his backyard chickens. And you covered a story today about, they want to come after and kill people's pigs in Michigan.
Well, yes, and there's a case, Mark Baker is the farmer there, who put out a YouTube video and took a stand, and he's alive today because of that. They were going to raid his farm on April 1 with firearms and shoot and slaughter his entire livestock, and maybe even shoot him if he put up resistance. But they backed off. Why? Because attention was brought to this case from the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. We covered it at Natural News. It's been covered elsewhere. Alex Jones covered it on his show like 10 days ago or so. The light